Hey there, and welcome back to TingleCon 2022. I'm Nathan ASMR, and I'm here with a wonderful group of panelists, ASMR artists. We have Amy K ASMR, we have Tingle Smith ASMR, Riley Roses, and Whisperwind ASMR. And today we're going to be talking about cosplay. So this is a really interesting panel. You know, as you can see, our guests are decked out in their full regalia, and I'm very excited to sort of have them explain some of that and maybe talk about some of the process of making this style of ASMR. I think it happens to be just a very popular style right now. So that I think will be of a lot of interest. And at the end of this, I want to add that we are going to be doing an audience questions. We did field some questions on Twitter. So I do have my Twitter open in the off chance somebody asks a question there. So if you, so let's just see if the gods let them match here and they get on. But if not, we're just going to go through these questions here we've already received. So why don't we start with just some just easy, loose questions here. And the first one is going to be, what's your favorite type of cosplay or favorite time period? What do you prefer to do? Riley Roses, do you want to begin?
Sure. My favorite kind of cosplay is pretty much anything to a certain extent from video games and anime. That's kind of where I take most of my inspiration. So my personal favorite to do is anything from Zelda, and I've done a lot. That's actually why I have even ears on today. And I forgot the second part of the question.
The second part is like if it was maybe a particular time period that you prefer or something like that.
Yes.
Maybe medieval, steampunk, like Victorian, modern.
Yes is just the answer. Because I pretty much like to do from all over the place and more just find, I guess the best answer is like present in a way, because I'll just watch something or play something and I'm like, oh, I have to do that no matter what time period. So the present's kind of most important in that way.
Awesome. Paul, do you want to tell us what your favorite time period and style is?
Sort of steampunk, Victorian.
Yes,
Victorian.
Pretty clear, though.
I think I'm unreasonably obsessed with the Victorian period. So I like playing my sort of Tesla characters or Copperhand or that sort of imagination between what could be and what was back in the history. Probably because it reminds me of my childhood, I guess. A little bit.
Wow, that cuts deep. Whisperwind Sage, do you want to give us your... It's funny that I call you Whisperwind Sage because that's your Twitter handle, so I forgot that I did that, but...
oh, you're good.
Yeah, I can cut that out later if you want. So did you want to tell us what your favorite type of cosplay or your favorite time period is?
Yeah, fantasy. Fantasy, mostly medieval, I guess, kind of that high fantasy, thinking like Lord of the Rings or like kind of D&D style, anything in there. I mean, I do kind of expand from there too. I also love to do steampunk. I've got some steampunk characters in my world too, but yeah, fantasy.
Awesome. Amy K?
My favorite cosplays to do are the ones that I am currently obsessed with. I'm like Riley Rose, where if I watch something and it literally scratches my rat brain just right, I have to do it. And in terms of like time period, I do really enjoy doing medieval cosplays because I like to set up the sets. It's like a challenge for me, and when I do it just right, I get so proud of myself, and it's just fun. So I love to do fantasy medieval.
Awesome. So I want to get into kind of a nitty gritty question that maybe just because I think it's a distinction that's worth exploring. And that is, of course, as ASMR becomes more niche and more specialized and things like that. But do you have feelings about what the difference between cosplay and roleplay are? Because, I was putting together these panels and I realized there is a distinction, but maybe you could talk about it. Riley Roses, did you want to start off that?
Yeah. For when it comes to role playing and cosplay, I think something that's wonderful about both of them is that it's a very expansive idea for both of them. You can kind of do anything. For role plays, for me, it's a little more scripted and specific because I have a message and particular element of a video I want to get across, whether it's kind of like your GF does this or this, like I'll do a cosplay and be like, Zelda reads the Hyrule Historia to you, versus when I'm just cosplaying, it gives me personally a lot more freedom to kind of do whatever. It's a little more unscripted in a way because I'm just acting how I interpret a character I love versus trying to get a specific character to reach an audience. It's much more personal for me to cosplay and much more sharing for me to role play, if that makes sense.
That's real interesting. Paul, Tinglesmith, did you want to touch on that?
The whole question is very philosophical. I have difficulty splitting.
Well, you know me, Paul. You know I gotta throw a little bit.
You never make it easy.
Never
make it easy. But I think, like, to me, at least with the stuff I do and I enjoy, they sort of come together, right? I think Shakespeare said something like, "Clothing maketh the man." It's a bit sexist, really, when you think about it. But he was quite, he was an exploitational whore who wouldn't let women on stage and things like that. So just check out. But I think what he was trying to nail there was when clothing and personality merge together a little bit, right? You sort of have this psychological change. When I dress as Captain Wolf and I have my whole gear on, I can just feel Victorian melancholy pulse through my veins. So I think the cosplay to me really influences the role play itself. I mean, I think the way it becomes different, actually, the way it becomes different is this. So when you are completely in your cosplay, you look the part, that's the initial trick, right? We've got this initial trick for the audience. Look, everything looks right. But then if you don't have the story behind that, this is where the cosplay doesn't move into role play. And that's where you have, it goes in a different direction, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whisper, did you want to touch on that as well?
Yeah. Well, okay. I need like a little cup of hot chocolate while I listen to Paul talk.
After Paul's that was deep.
Yeah, fascinating. No, I would say similarly. Also, I think like with role play, that can also encompass, things that are more modern day too, like a medical role play. Like that's a role play, but I wouldn't consider that cosplay. So I think role play is maybe a little more of a like broader spectrum, whereas cosplay, you're more like becoming a certain character that's not someone that you would just run into off the street every day. I'm sorry, that's
Amy K. That's all right, no worries.
I think that, like, obviously they do intersect a lot. I think that you guys make some really great points. How you can do a cosplay video, but it's also not a roleplay video. And you can do a roleplay video that's not a cosplay video, like there's a Venn diagram there somewhere. But for me, like the way that my brain sees it is that a roleplay video is when I am a regular person, like a doctor or a teacher or some, like a popular girl or whatever. And then a cosplay video is when I'm dressing up. I'm somebody completely different that is just like in a different space, So that's kind of how I see it.
Great. That's great answers. Okay, so now let's move on to the next one as this plane flies over. Now you know my pain. So let's go ahead and just talk about... Oh, so yeah, you got the dog, I got the plane, we got it all.
I have planes too, yeah.
And you got the plane.
Everything.
So, all right, so why don't we talk about the next thing? So you're kind of, and I think actually we want to jump into the audience questions here, like kind of right after this. So how do you incorporate triggers into your, and this again, I asked this last year because I think it kind of changes and evolves for everybody, but so you have these characters and costumes, how do you incorporate the ASMR aspect into it? And is there something that you feel is more important when you're acting in terms of ASMR versus just regular acting, for example?
I think that's a great question. For me, we could talk a little bit about like the hyperfixation of finding a new cosplay or something you want to do like that. So my hyperfixations will go to the extent of like, let me just watch the entire something that they are in and let me just jot down things they use. And at this point of sure, we all can agree, like I have accumulated enough that I'm pretty sure any character that comes up, I will be like, oh, look at this remote. My character loves to watch TV. Like there's just so many things that I have at this point. So I try to kind of watch what the character does and what they use. I did a Faye Valentine shoot and she does a lot of card tricks. So that was a really fun kind of element to add into a video, is the sound of cards flipping. I just kind of use the things I already have, and the hyperfixation is so real that if I don't have it, I will find a way to get it and then feel inspired by getting it to put it in my ASMR video. It's a very healthy relationship with buying things for cosplay. So yeah, I think I just have amassed enough that there's pretty much no prop that I wouldn't be able to make into a trigger, whether it's talking to somebody and kind of like tapping on something or writing notes about them. If there's a certain character that would do something like that, I'll make cosplay pieces. I did a Harley Quinn where I made one of her hammers that I could scratch and tap on. So I think the world's kind of open for that. I just watch what the characters already use.
Fantastic. Paul, did you want to touch on that as well?
Triggers. I'm terrible at triggers, Nathan. You know, I'm one of the worst ASMR artists in the world. My stories are too lion. I really bash on things. I try to calm myself down, but it doesn't really happen. That said, I guess, how does it flow? It flows firstly with the costume, get dressed. Then you have your story that flows into it. And then it's a lot easier when you've got a set, because then you start putting your set together. Lovely, nice sound of a typewriter. If you like that. Then you have other things, stamps and things that you can tap on, notes, papers, and things like that. So they tend to come together based off the character and the place that you are. But I'm very bad at it, so I would ask somebody else.
And Whisper When Sage.
Yeah, I mean, kind of also what you guys were touching on, the same thing. Like, are you kind of, once you get into a space, I think for me, like the character is more what I'm looking like, but the space is more the triggers for me, maybe. Because, you know, if I'm an innkeeper, there are so many different things. I can offer you tea. I can, you know, crunch the tea. I can tap on the glass. I can offer you a drink. I can offer, you know, I can write down stuff and ask you questions. Like, there are so many different things that can be ASMR triggers. And yeah, you just kind of get creative with what is in the space. Also, I am somebody that I am constantly fiddling with things. So if I just have a set, if I'm just like talking as the character, I'll pick something up and I'll just be fiddling with it. And it makes good sounds because a lot of things make good sounds. So, you know, the more that you just kind of get comfortable with the space is kind of how I do triggers, I guess. And then also for the second part of that question, the difference between like acting, like just acting in general and acting for ASMR. Definitely, like, I mean, when you're on stage, you need everything to be big and everything to be even a little bit over exaggerated. Like, even if it's not a big action, in order to actually be seen on stage, it needs to be big and it needs to catch attention. There's a principle of acting called your circle of focus. And on a big stage, you want scenes that are like, the circle of focus is really big and you see the whole stage. And then you have times where it's kind of closer together and more intimate. Well, ASMR, it's all that small, intimate circle. And so you can get somebody to focus on an item that you're holding right here in your hand, and this is the only space that they're looking at because that's what you're focusing on, and so that's what you're focusing on. And so it's far more just kind of bringing everything in. You can even have a big set, but you still just want to bring everybody in to that moment right there. And everything like sometimes takes a little bit longer because you are focusing on the triggers and having it be relaxing and interesting and just bringing in that focus. So.
Fantastic. Amy, did you want to touch on that as well?
This was something that was really hard for me when I first started because I was obviously really focused on the storytelling part. And so I would write a big script and so I would come up with a new world or whatever. And then I'd be like, oh, darn, right, the triggers.
Oh, yeah, ASMR.
Over time, I've learned to kind of like do a different process. So there's two different types of how I do this. One is if it is a character that already exists in media. And I will do the same thing where I will research them, everything that they've been in. And I'll be like, what are things that they use? What is like a trigger that I could actually see them doing? And I'll write down every single one, and then I'll kind of pick up my favorites. And that's how I'll create my outline, because I do like script the beginning and then I outline the rest. And that's how I choose the triggers for like a cosplay video for that. And then my second type is the ones characters that I make up. And how I choose triggers for that is I do triggers first. I watch ASMR. I'm an avid ASMR watcher. If I hear a trigger that I like, I write it down. Like recently, I've been obsessed with soapy sounds. I'm obsessed with moose sounds. So that is something that I've been writing into a lot of my like characters that I make up. So I just like, if there's something I hear and I love the sound, I will take a bunch of those and mash them together and then create a character around those triggers and then create an outline, create a story. And then that's how I do my other type.
Can I ask everybody a question?
Yeah.
What do you do? Because this has happened to me. I guarantee it's happened to you. What do you do when you just took down your entire set and you take off your costume and then you walk away and you go, I should have done this trigger. Like I should have done this trigger. Sometimes I'll put it all the way back together and sometimes I won't. What do you guys think about that?
I just say, F it. Nope.
You're not going back.
That's
No.
I sometimes do. In fact, sometimes like the reason that I do B-roll in my videos. So I'll be like, oh, let me go grab that. And then later I'll actually like shoot just the B-roll of my hand grabbing it. And then you can add in different sections and nobody has to know because it doesn't wreck the flow of it, because you just go to the B-roll and then you can like shoot a particular scene over again or like add in something. In fact, I just had one the other day that I was filming it and it like I ended and then I looked and it was only like 22 minutes and I was like, no, I need some more. So I went back and I was like, okay, where could I fit in something else? And so I like kind of figured out what B-roll I was going to film and then added some more items that I was talking about or whatever. And then I circled back to the item that like was at the beginning of the cut. And so you didn't even tell that it was a cut because there was just B-roll and stuff in there. So B-roll is a good way to be able to do that and not need to have as many cuts.
Oh my God, I'm sitting here like laughing because I'm like desperate. I'm like, I just put all my notebooks away. Oh my God, that's so smart. Okay, cool. I was just curious.
Yeah. I mean, I don't do it all the time, but when I have like a set, I'm like, okay, I took the time to set up this whole set. I'm going to film B-roll so that you can look at my cool props, dang it. And then also it's a good transition to not need cuts.
Cool.
Awesome. All right. So I love that question. That was great. So why don't we go? So again, it's funny because the audience asked kind of the tough questions. So I'm going to sort of ask you a couple more fun questions. And I want to leave like a little under half for the audience questions here. So I'll just ask you the best of my fun questions here. And so I think very importantly, what is in your Tingle closet in 2022? What's in your ASMR closet? Riley Rose, again.
Everything. Like clothing wise,
yeah. Like tell me about some of your best stuff in there. What do we got? We got some
Mario
otoscopes for the medical room. Yeah, the Mario hat. I mean, yeah.
I have an entire Mario, Luigi, and Wario. All costumes. The Wario comes with an inflatable stomach, which is pretty awesome. I'm like literally genuinely like, oh my God, I have over 25 wigs, I think at this point. And I think actually last time I counted, it was actually 35 and I'm a liar. So I have over 35 wigs, like a million freaking things, just a million bajillion things I don't have room for anymore, but it won't stop me. So anything you can think of, maybe.
Paul, what's in your Tingle closet, my friend? What do we got? It looks like if it's not even in the closet, it looks like you just got your stash on. It's
this is how I
daily
normally
wear.
dress. So it's not really a closet. It's just this is how I go out. But I actually have went out sometimes straight after filming just to get something to eat. Maybe a drive-through. It is quite funny dressed, isn't it? Getting some chicken nuggets. But loads of medieval stuff. I know I said like Victorian's one of my favorite, but I've got loads of medieval stuff. And there was a big sale on, and I could get loads for very cheap. So loads of medieval stuff. I think the biggest, weirdest, probably I have a suit of armor. That's quite sizable. Just the top. ASM artists don't need the bottom.
No.
Very rare. We need the bottom.
Pajama pants on the bottom.
ASM artist saying in a collab who just said, "Don't tell me you aren't all like this." And they had a fantastic costume, but they were also wearing pajamas on the bottom, which I thought was very cute. But yeah.
Sage, Westwood, did you want to tell us what you got? I mean, you kind of told, I think you told us last year. So is there anything new that we have? I mean, I've to like bring up your new channel or anything, but I feel like there might be some new things.
There are some new things. There's a lot going on. I just started a new channel that is called Goblin ASMR, and it's mostly just features
Make sure you subscribe.
My
subscribe right now.
Go subscribe. It mostly features one of my characters who's called Knob the Goblin, and she's just chaotic and she's amazing, and I love her. And I created her as a character, and when I first put her on like Whisperwind ASMR, I was like, this is gonna lose me all of my subscribers, and I'm just gonna like be back down to 0 because everybody's gonna be like, yeah, too weird, unsubscribe. But she was like instantly a fan favorite. Everyone loved Knob. They were like, more Knob. Every time I'm like poll my audience, I'm like, what do you guys want more of? They're like, more Knob. Okay, so I actually started a whole channel that is now gonna be mostly Knob, but then also like some just like weird stuff, weird ideas that I've had for a while, but I feel like they doesn't really fit on Whisperwind ASMR, and I'm not sure how well it would perform there. But now I'm like, this is just kind of my chance to be unhinged. So I'm just, it's just going to be chaotic and weird and dark maybe, and unhinged and awesome. So yeah, there's some new stuff coming up.
And what about in the Tingle closet? Anything new in there related to Knob? I mean, some goblin hands or some.
Yeah, I've been collecting a lot of different like ears and like different prosthetics and things like that, and a lot of new makeup, like full on like full colored makeup. So yeah, there's definitely some new characters, new like kind of monster inspired characters coming up.
Awesome. Amy K? What is in your Tingle closet? I think you also answered this question last year. So is there anything in this past year that we've added into the collection?
You know, a lot has changed in terms of what I have, but it's not necessarily my props, because at some point I was like, oh my gosh, like all these little things, and I'm so bad at organizing, and then I feel disorganized. So I was like, no more little tiny things. Try to make role plays with what you have. But what I have been spending an ungodly amount of money on is a bunch of different types of curtains, a bunch of backgrounds. I bought way too many fancy lights, and just like, because I've been trying to figure out like how film people light their films. And so I've been buying a bunch of random doodads that they use and not really knowing how to use them, but kind of figuring it out. So just a lot of little things regarding equipment.
Awesome. Well, you can never, by the end of it, you always end up with too much of that. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
It adds up quick. Okay, so let's go on to the next question. I think I want to do let's do 2 questions here, and then we're going to jump into the audience. So these are kind of easy ones, but I thought this would be a nice one to just quickly talk about. Which of your costumes was the hardest to record in? But like, what's your... Nope. Darn you, Panasonic autofocus. That was terrible. This was blurry for a second. So tell me, what's your best ASMR blooper story? Like your hardest costume, something that was just funny that you think like people don't necessarily know how hard it is. You put all that stuff on and then you got to like not knock this microphone here or that. So Riley Rose, did you want to maybe talk about an experience you had like that?
Yeah. For St. Patrick's Day, actually, I was a leprechaun.
Oh my gosh, I remember that.
I mostly, like, most of my work goes towards streaming, and then I kind of edit VODs together for YouTube. And what I like to do is pre-record segments and then kind of play them live and interact with myself and role play with myself in that way. And just like put on the costume, and it was just too small. Like, I don't know if I bought like a child's size or something, but I made the mistake of like, I didn't try it on until the stream day. So it was just like, all right, we're just going to make this work. And like half of it was like open in the back. It had a beard on a hat that was way too small. So I really had to like get it on there. And the beard was like in my mouth, and it was so much. And then I like brought down my, background and was a fool, and it was a green background. I like literally didn't even think about it. I put it down and got into OBS and was like, green screen. It was just like, you could see like my mouth and then my eyes because the rest was green. So I literally I was like changing it. I have a giant like holder up here, and it like fell, and then it fell and like knocked the hat off because I didn't want to take it off. So I had to like re-put it on. Like, it just was like the dumbest idea that took so much work, and then like recorded like a 15-minute video and just kind of sat there like, that took like 2 hours to set up, and I just filmed it. Like, I was just like, do I film more? And at that point I was so like, the beard is literally like, and I'm like, hello everybody, it's Leprechaun Day. Like, so freaking facial hair. Like, I'm looking at Tinglesmith right now, and I don't know. I honestly genuinely don't know if that's your real mustache or not, because it looks great, but also
I wish it was.
hate beards and mustaches because they're always in my mouth. So yeah, weirdly enough, it was a leprechaun. I like them on other people, to be clear. I just was like, I love his mustache, but I hate them and they're terrible. It looks great, Tinglesmith. It looks amazing.
Thank you.
Awesome. That was fantastic. The classic green leprechaun. There's a few others I know who have made an elf, green elves too, for Christmas. A couple of people made that, Aaron. I'm not going to name names here. All right. So Paul, what about you, man? Are you, what's some sort of interesting story? I mean, you got a lot of intricate costumes there. Anything in particular that you can remember?
How do elves live?
You try to light the pipe for
elves can live or have a practical life or do anything sensible. The Thranduil character that I had, and his brother, his quite weird brother, full elven gown all the way down to your feet, quite tight collar as well. Very difficult to get into. Extremely difficult to get out of. And it's quite tight fitting. And then you think, I'll just sit down in this. Not so easy to sit down in as well. Then you've got a full flowing blonde wig. And that in itself can be, depending when you're filming and how hot it is, that can be a little bit of a challenge. And then, do you know Thranduil's crown that looks like that?
Yeah, the like antler.
How does that stay on? Well, it doesn't. That's how it stays on.
Well, it does.
It's many times putting it back on and going, okay, let's try this again.
Just don't turn too heavily. Not a big turn.
And so you've got your crown on, you've got your wig on, you've got this incredibly tight thing. You're sitting and it's very awkward. And then Eldruil's like, well, I'll pour you some boiling hot tea. So pour some boiling hot tea for you. That didn't go well. Yes.
Now I want to go back and watch it again.
Yeah, I think I need to rewatch that.
You can see me flinch and go through it. I'm like, I'm not retaking this. I'm just going to have to let it burn.
Don't break character. Don't break character.
The things we do for ASMR,
Oh, gosh.
Whisperwind, what about you? Anything any stories you can share with
I accidentally lit my dress on fire one time. So that was an adventure. It wasn't very long. I caught it right away, but it was just, I had these like really pretty, like sheer white bell sleeves, and they were so pretty. And then I went to like grab something, filming my B-roll that I'm obsessed with because I just have to make everything harder than it is. And I like was going to reach for something, and there was a candle underneath that was lit, and I just like lit it right on fire. I didn't even think about it. And then I was like, ah! And there's another time where I had a candle lit, And I had like a little plate underneath it because it was like, it's one that's shaped like a spine. It's really cool. But when it melts, it goes all over the place, not just on my little plate, but it goes like all over the place. And I had it sitting on this little wooden slatted bookcase where like there are multiple shelves to it. And it was on the top shelf and it dribbled down to the next one and down to the next one and down to the embedded itself into my carpet as I was filming this video. Oh, I guess that's more of a prop one than a costume one, but oh my gosh, I like got done filming and I saw that and I was like, ugh. I spent like an hour the next day trying to clean it up. Yeah, I have
fantasy candles. You got to be careful.
Seriously, yeah. I really love incorporating like candles and fire, and I am clumsy enough that I should not incorporate candles and fire. I have many, many bloopers of candles and fire that are like, wow, she almost actually burned her face off, or like she really could have burned her house down. Yeah, and yet I keep doing it because I like candles and I like fire, and what can I say?
Sounds. You can't beat them. You can't beat
them. I like to live on the edge, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Amy K, what about you?
In general, I'd say anything that involves cosplay contacts, I can never see. So I'm always like punching things, or I'm out of frame, or I can't see the viewfinder. So sometimes like I'll just like that. But most recently, one of the most difficult ones was when I did my Wanda Scarlet Witch roleplay. There was a scene where from the movie where she's covered in oil, like Carrie-esque. So she is just all over, as if from, the movie Carrie. And I wanted it to look like that. And I wanted every scene that I did to be just dripping. I wanted them to see the drips. So I had to keep reapplying chocolate sauce, but it's oil. But as you can imagine, it's dripping all the way down me, onto the floor, on everything I'm touching, because my hands are covered in it. Because I want to show my hands that are just dripping in this oil. I thought it would be scary. I had to have, I never asked my husband to help because he has no idea what's going on with any of this. But I had to have him do it because every time I went to even click record, it would get chocolate sauce all over the camera, and there were like different scenes, so I had to move it to different places, and I couldn't touch anything. I couldn't touch light switches. I couldn't touch just anything you can imagine because I was covered in chocolate sauce, and it was so difficult because I was like, no, move it up. No, you have to press. You have to turn this.
Oh my gosh.
Up. Okay, now I have to turn it like this, and he's like this, and I'm like no, like that. So I couldn't do anything myself, and it was so difficult because I had no patience. I was like, no, not like that. I want it to be angled this way. And then,
don't make any noises either. Say some more, don't you know?
Yeah, and then also he's there, so he's watching me do it, and I'm not used to having people watch me do it, so it was look away. But needless to say, I did afterwards, after I got out of costume, I had to go around and clean chocolate sauce all over my house. The floor, I just let it go all over the floor because I was dripping. I couldn't stop that. But yeah, I had to clean chocolate sauce off of everything.
Wow. Oh. That actually, the first time that I did Knob, I painted my hands green because, she's a goblin. So I needed to have my hands green. And so then I was getting makeup all over. And I put this powder on my makeup so that it would last longer, which was nice. It did make it last longer, but it also just left a powdery residue on everything. And all of my lights and all of the switches and all of my camera, it was just powder and green everywhere. And I was like,
oh, no. The difficult. Yeah, now people know.
Struggle.
It's not easy. Struggle is real. Okay, so real quick, I just want to go through this kind of really quick, and then we'll jump in these audience questions because we were a couple. Why are you doing that, folks? Well, it'll be blurry when it decides to come back. But there it is. Damn you, Panasonic. But why don't we just take this moment to just talk about some of the things you're up to right now? Maybe this could be your chance to just midway through, before we get in the audience questions, talk about your channel for a second. Talk about something you're working on, some video maybe you think they should take a look at. Why don't we start with Riley Roses? What would you like to say?
Yeah, I have two very exciting, very huge product. Blah, blah, blah. I have two very cool and exciting and gigantic projects that I'm working on. One that I actually filmed and will have to refilm about half of it because I just figured out a better way to do it and everything else. So that one, like I said, I like to pre-record things and play them back and interact. So I'm actually doing a Wizard of Oz stream where live I'll be Dorothy and then all the other parts are played by pre-recorded me's. So I did it. The part that I basically have to redo is I thought that I could kind of record them all separately and just kind of edit them and layer them on top of each other in a way that works. And it's kind of funky and it didn't quite work as I thought. So I basically am going to have them playing while I'm recording have an earpiece in, listening and responding as the other pre-recorded part is working. So I have so many parts and pieces and, I have it all basically scripted out, but I am going to have to refilm quite a few parts of it, but that's okay because it'll be so much better. And then the second one is again, live comic book stream. So I actually make multiple comic book panels and then zoom in on each panel as a scene as we go through it and then have pre-recorded bad guys of me basically. And usually we fight dark-sided Riley and we're fighting self-doubt and confidence issues and the good guy always wins. So it's really a fun one that I'm looking forward to both of those.
And where can people, what's your channel for people who find out more information?
Great question.
Yeah. We should get in early, before they leave. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
I mostly stream on Twitch, and by mostly, I mean only. I don't know why I said mostly. And it's just twitch.tv, Riley Rosie, my name that's also down there. And then on YouTube, it's Riley Rose ASMR. And those are mostly older videos so far. I've just kind of stockpiled and kept releasing them. So the really cool stuff is on Twitch mostly for now.
Awesome. Paul, do you want to tell us what you're up to and then maybe give us a little shout out to your channel?
Actually incredibly important. Queen Victoria, she expects results. Okay? You can see here, Lord Howard Harkin has been murdered. We have 8 suspects.
Howard is?
What?
And we just got to get on. We've got to solve this thing. So what I'm doing here, this is a setup that I'm going to use soon, is for an introduction, actually. It's going to be an ASMR role play. There's going to be a little tapping and things like that, which is going to be nice. But I'm also going to film an introduction to a little, it sounds like I'm plugging it, but I'm not plugging it. You asked, to a little book that I'm writing, which is based in steampunk London, which could be quite nice. The idea for this sort of book in itself came from an idea for a collab, but it just evolved into something bigger. So I'm going to do a little introduction to Inspector Rutherford, who is going to be working with a rather unpleasant chief inspector, Wellworth. And
where can people find more?
Maybe I post a link across on for that, but it should be interesting anyway because it has audio elements to it as well. This little book, and some of the best ASMR artists in the world are contributing to it with their voice. One of them is here as well, MK, and they all did a fantastic job of it. So it sort of became a little bit of an ASMR collab at the same time as well. So yes, I'm super excited about this one. Yeah.
And for those who want to find out more information about Tinglesmith, where would they theoretically go to check it out? I'm probably going to be posting it very soon on my YouTube channel. If you search for Tinglesmith, then you'll see me there. But I'll maybe be promoting a Facebook page as well for the actual work, so you can listen to some of the clips and things like that. Fantastic. Whisperwind, what are you up to, and where can people find more if they want? I mean, especially with your new channel, you got it. This is your chance, right?
Yeah.
Another double drop.
I've got a lot going on. I just dropped Goblin ASMR, so that is a lot of fun, and I have a lot of different things kind of in the pipeline for that. In fact, I started a Twitter for Knob, and it was mostly just for fun, but like even just interacting with people like as Knob, I've come up with like 16 different video ideas that I'm like, that would be so cool. So there's going to be a lot for that. So that is Goblin ASMR. And then in Whisperwind, that channel is mostly like an ongoing story that's kind of like D&D-esque. So right now we are in the capital city in our story, and it's been kind of a long time coming, but we're trying to learn more about like the kingdom and like the royalty specifically, and like some of the different like more covert things that have been going on, and like the corruption of power and that kind of stuff. So there's a lot going on there. We're going to a place called the Eifendel Bazaar soon, which is going to have like all of these strange and exotic peddlers selling you different things and stuff like that. And then we're going to be going on an adventure to the wilds, which is going to be sort of a desert realm too. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
And link to your channel. So
that one is Whisperwind ASMR.
Fantastic. Amy K, what about you? What are you working on? And where can people find more if they want to learn more?
First of all, you can find me at Amy K ASMR on YouTube. I really only post on YouTube because I'm single-minded, I suppose. But I'm generally pretty tight-lipped about what I'm working on, but I think that TingleCon deserves a little sneak peek. Okay.
Oh wow! Wow!
Here it comes.
I mean, well, let me get this out of the way. A lot of people ask, like, when are you going to do another Jinx ASMR? I am going to do it at some point. I promise. And this one's going to be. I'm so excited about it because I've been working on it forever. But number two, like I said, I've been doing a lot of research. I've been trying to figure out like some new tricks, some new styles. And I recently found out about cinematic fog, and I found out about Cucaloris. Okay. And I also recently watched the movie Inception. And let's just say I watched it 10 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever. But I watched it again and I was like, you know what?
Leo ain't got nothing on you. Leo ain't got nothing.
So those are some things that I have going on in my head here.
Awesome. Fantastic. That's fantastic. All right. Well, that's really exciting. So let's just we have about 20 minutes, and that just leaves us the time to go through these audience questions. And again, some of them are pretty we've answered some stuff, so I'm cutting out a couple of them and I'm just leaving the essentials here, because the ones that you haven't really touched on. So why don't we start with this one here? And that is from Jellybean Green. When adapting pre-existing characters or historical figures into your work, what's your thought process behind when to take creative liberties versus when to try and be true to the original depiction of that character?
That's such a good question.
That's a good question.
Yeah. My brain operates on its own field sometimes. So it very much is a question of it depends, just because there's certain characters that for some reason I feel a need to honor who they are. Like when I play and do Princess Zelda cosplays and ASMR videos, it's like I want to, she is so different in so many different games. I want to be her in the game that she is portrayed in, because she's portrayed in so many ways. But another one I do a lot that I already mentioned earlier was Harley Quinn, who's kind of a, nut job out of her mind kind of thing. So for her, I feel like I could take any liberty and go all over the place with her. So it kind of depends. But I do think a big difference is that Harley Quinn is something I've done a few times before. So there's also an element of I may need to infuse my own creativity and take it outside of the character a little bit, just because I've done it before, and sometimes there's not source material for what I want to do that I have access to or can find. So if I wanted to do a role play of some sort involving Harley Quinn, like Harley Quinn teaches you how to ski, there's not a single comic book or show out there that's going to show me what Harley Quinn is like if she was skiing down the mountain. But I have a pretty good idea of what I think she'd be like. So I'm just going to kind of go with that as well, which, by the way, just write that one down real quick.
I was going to say, when is that one coming? I definitely want to watch that one.
Again,
don't cross her path on that slope. That's for sure.
Goblin mode brain just activated, like my little ADD brain. Yeah, Goblin, just like Knob, just is literally sitting here like, wouldn't that be funny? it would be great.
It would be awesome.
Yeah, exactly. So a few different components in that. You just saw a bit of my creative process, which is just talking a lot and then going, wait a second.
Wait a second. Yes.
Awesome. And Paul, for you?
It is a good question, isn't it? So I guess when I'm doing historic characters, I probably do a little bit of research into them. Maybe watch a documentary on them if I can be bothered. And Howard Carter would be a sort of an example of that, I guess. I saw a lot of pictures of Howard, and then I watched, I listened to one or two of his audio recordings. I think there's only one of his audio recordings when he talks about the tomb. And it looked fairly accurate, I think, based off the pictures. So the grubby face makeup, that really helped. It makes you feel like you're in the desert. I was very lucky. I had a big tent thing up as well. So you've got the clothing on, you've got the grubby face, you've got the tent behind you, and then you just feel like you're there. It just becomes really easy. You're like, oh, I feel overwhelmed by the feeling of where I am. I look around, I'm there. So what was the question? No, and then I think, so I think that is sort of building that together for sure. But it also just come down to two things. One, what you've got, and the second one is budget. I'm going to do a Prince George video soon, and I'm not going to be wearing as an expensive gear as Prince George does. So sometimes you can be limited a little bit by that. But I think when you're creative on camera, you can be very tricky. Very tricky.
Fantastic. And Whisper?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely budget comes down to it a lot. Also, a lot of my videos, you really don't see anything past like my shoulders. So I'm not always super accurate with the costume because it doesn't matter all that much because you don't really see it. So, I definitely make things work. Like I have a generic black jumpsuit that I'll do for, characters that are in like a superhero black jumpsuit or whatever. You can't see the details on it, but you're not going to see that anyway because it's not there. For me, it really comes down to two things, I guess. The lore about the character, like how much is actually known about them. And also like how many different depictions of them there are. Like, again, kind of talking about Harley Quinn, like there are so many different versions of Harley Quinn and they are drastically different. So like, I feel like you can maybe take a little more liberty with that because there are so many different versions out there. As opposed to like when I do a Star Wars video, I research that baby for like at least a month. That's not an exaggeration. I spend so much time researching for Star Wars videos because I'm like, I am going to say the right name for the planet. I'm going to watch 10 different YouTube videos about different people pronouncing it so that I make sure that I pronounce it right so that I don't get a comment saying you pronounce the planet wrong. All these different things. Like I am very, very, very meticulous about my Star Wars videos because I don't want them to be wrong. But yeah, I think, it definitely comes down to also like the universe. Like Star Wars takes place in a universe that isn't ours. And so I can't use things like, oh, I'm going to pick up my cell phone. Well, they don't have cell phones. They have other things, but they don't have cell phones. Whereas like if I'm doing Spider-Man lives in New York. So technically you could do a role play with Spider-Man doing anything that a random New Yorker would do and it would fit because it's New York. We all know, at least, have a little bit of a familiarity of what New York is like. And so I feel like there you can take a little more liberty as opposed to like a fantasy world or a sci-fi world where it's like you kind of have to make sure that you don't have something that's going to like blatantly stick out, and like not fit in the world.
And MEK?
Yeah, this is a really hard question because it depends. It's case by case. It depends on, the character. Is there a lot known about them? It depends on my motivation, to be honest. Like I am so motivated to get everything completely perfect and completely right. And I've researched them like everywhere. And I want it to be exact. And sometimes I just I'm tired and I don't have motivation. So the costume is something that I put together from, what I have, and I throw something up. And if this character, I don't know if this character has this. I don't know. It was a quick video. But usually I try to be very good about making sure that it's spot on because just if it's something that people know, I don't want people to think that I'm not caring about the video or something like that. And they prefer, I think a lot of people really appreciate the details. So, but again, with budget too, you know, if I don't have budget for a really big costume, even if I am super into it, people are pretty okay with your costume not being spot on as long as everything else is good. You know, script is good, whatever. So yeah, it depends.
Awesome. Great answers. Okay, so we're going to move on here. And these are I'm cutting them down as we're coming down to our last couple of questions here. So this is a pretty easy one here. This is from Minx Laura 123. And what age did you start getting into cosplay? And who was your first cosplay?
Ooh, I like that question.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I started cosplaying in the pandemic. I used to work and I live in Los Angeles. So I worked in the film industry and stuff shut down. And I had all these camera and lights and everything else from a job that didn't want them back. And so I was like, what can I kind of do during this time? Well, it could be kind of fun. So I did Princess Bubblegum. I just bought like a $20 costume from like Amazon. The crown came and like part of it was like the top part was like bent over a little bit. And I was like, I don't even care. And just did like one tiny thing with like just my wall as the backdrop. And it just was so fun. And like, I think Tingle Smith mentioned earlier, when you get in the clothes, you're like, I am a princess. Oh my God, look at my crooked crown. So yeah. So I was... Oh God, what age was I? 23. That was 23 because that was like 2 years ago.
And for you, Tingle Smith.
How old am I now? It's probably like in the 1880s, I imagine, was the first time. Lord Mountbatten was probably. No, I can't really remember. That's a question for young people with young people's minds. And the first one I did for YouTube was Void Camp Test, Blade Runner, retrofuturistic. You know, tell me about your mother, that type of thing. So we had the sort of PI type rundown, hard boiled Blade Runner picture, and I thought that was quite fun. And that was just all gear I already had. So that comes back to the, how hard is it to do something like that? It's like often you look in your closet and you think, if I pair 2 or 3 weird things together that wouldn't be paired, then suddenly I've got myself a strange cosplay. So yes, I think that's that.
All right, and Wistful for you, your first one.
Yeah, my first one was way before I started.
When did you start? And when did you start?
Yeah, that was way before I started my YouTube channel. Back in 2016, 2015, maybe something like that. Definitely a long time ago. And it was Raven from Teen Titans, but it was like an everyday Raven. So I just bought a sweatshirt from a thrift store and I like cut the whole way deeper. And then I painted like Azarath Metreon Zinthos in this like cool font on it. And I bought a $10 wig and bought the paint and like learned how to paint myself gray or whatever. And then my friend dressed up as Beast Boy and we went to a con and yeah, we were BB Ray, but just like casual BB Ray, not like spending a lot of money on it because I didn't necessarily have the budget for it, but it was a lot of fun.
So I started cosplaying when I first started my channel. Starting my channel, I did it for many reasons, but one of them is because I needed an excuse to cosplay because I always wanted to do it. My first, like I'm thinking back to it and I'm like, oh my God, it was so bad. It was Zelda from Breath of the Wild, because I am also obsessed with Zelda, like so obsessed. And I was like, I feel like it'd be like so iconic if like Zelda was my first one. But the only thing I got was a long wig that didn't even fit me right. And I don't even remember if I wore a dress, like, but I remember being so proud of it at the time, but then I think back to it and I'm like, oh my God, it's so embarrassing. Yeah. So 3 or 4 years ago, how old? I think my channel was like 4 years old at this point, I believe. So I think it was like 26 or something, 25. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. So these are the last two questions here, because again, we're running short on time. So how did you actually make the first connection between ASMR and cosplay?
Ooh,
How did you see the genres meshing? I guess is the question. That's from Court.
I didn't for a little bit. I had watched ASMR, but I had mostly been watching no talking, very like the up close hands kind of ASMR videos, just because talking for me is hard to fall asleep to because I like wake up, I want to talk to them. So I had started just streaming video games during the pandemic and had just little success because I had no clue what I was doing, and had a friend reach out and was like, hey, because I had started wearing wigs and different costumes to kind of match the video game I was playing if I had it, because I just got so hyper focused and obsessed with cosplay. I got all these various things. And a friend just reached out who was a bigger streamer and was like, did you know people stream ASMR? Which I didn't even know. And he was like, you already do costumes, you already do this. What if you try it out? And I did, and just like fell in love. And like the more I meet amazing creators like this and just see so many new videos come out, it makes so much sense that they would cross over. I just needed like a little push in the new direction of ASMR I love so much, the cosplay part of it.
And for you, Tinglesmith?
I think, I was watching ASMR for a while. I can't remember the first ASMR artist I watched, but it was the whispering type thing. And I thought there was like, you had 3D sounds and things like that. I was like, anyway, I don't remember the name, unfortunately. But, I did see the first ever ASMR video recently. I felt like Howard Carter again. I'm like, oh my God, this is the first ever ASMR. Time stood still. But anyway, to get the point, so I was watching a little bit of that, and then I saw a role play. I saw a sci-fi role play. It might have been from ASMR Requests. Audra Neela, I think, as well, did this sort of. Oh, it was cool. I can't describe it. It was cool. There was like a veil. There was background music and everything like that. I thought, this is so engaging. Yeah, it's great to have like a 3D, but like this character is really engaging, and it does feel like I'm on an adventure. Great escapism. So I think probably around about then is when I was starting to think this could be the way, combining storytelling and costumes and ASMR. Yes.
And for you, Whisperand?
Yeah, mine. I found ASMR, and it was mostly just like role plays of like, your friend is talking to you or something like that. And like those were nice or whatever. But then I found, I think it was a Goodnight Moon video, one of her Babelbrook series. And I was like, this is it. This is my jam. I love this. Like the immersion that she had and the detail that she put into everything. It was exactly what you were saying, Paul, the escapism of it. The like, I feel like I am there, and it is something that like is both relaxing and exciting at the same time, which doesn't really feel like it goes together, but it does. It's that idea of I am somewhere else, and okay, we're gonna go on this quest and we're gonna talk to the queen, and I don't know what's going on, but it's not my own life problems. It's other problems that I get to be the hero of, So I think that was kind of where it started. And I was like, I want to do that. And I want to do like just that and have every video be that exciting, like immersion, just an escape, like a solace from the rest of the world for a little while.
Yeah. And for you, MK?
Yeah, so when I first started watching ASMR, of course, it was like the more role play videos, like, Gentle Whispering and Latte and GB. And then I found like The White Rabbit, and I was like, these are like characters. And I was like really interested in that. I loved that. And then, of course, Goodnight Moon, that's how it's like a drug, you find Goodnight Moon, and it's the gateway, you're like, wait, I can do that too. Like, I love fantasy. I'm obsessed with that. And I loved that it was a story and it was a series. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to create my own series. I think I call it Farron Scrub series. And that ended quickly, but I think I only got like 6 episodes in, but it I was like, at the time, there's like nobody else doing this. And I feel like it's a niche that I can just be in and I could be known for, and it kind of like became a thing. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so I just want to kind of crush out this last question here, because I think this is sort of a good segue out of this fantastic panel. So just really quickly, if you could each of you just go through, and this is from Jade on Twitter. Out of all your cosplays, which one are you most proud of, and which one are you least proud of?
Wow, what a question. Most proud of, I don't even on it. Like, that's such a hard question because there's so many that I'm proud of for different reasons.
Yeah.
And I feel like I keep saying, oh, you know what? I know I was going to say Zelda, but I've been talking about her all panel. She's great and amazing, obviously. One of the ones I was most proud of is I actually it's literally a character named Bunny from Animal Crossing. And so I literally built ears out of foam, and I matched all the colors perfectly, and then bought a bunch of fake flowers and like borrowed from as many friends as I could because they're so expensive for some reason, and had them sitting in front of the camera in various ways, and had a blue backdrop, and then kind of edited Animal Crossing clouds that I had screen captured from the game onto it. So I was really proud of that one. It came together really well. And it was one of the first, like, trying to even build a mini set and first building of any of my cosplays. So that was really fun. I think the worst is kind of funny because also Raven from Teen Titans, and for no reason other than I just didn't have the budget for a really good wig. So I just kept getting the worst wigs. And I remember I was talking about it on stream, and I was like, yeah, I really like that photo shoot, but the wig was kind of weird. And like 3 people were kind of like, oh, it looked great. And one guy was like, yeah, the wig in the front. I was like, okay. Yeah. So I just didn't love it. Like, I couldn't get my camera angle right, and things were looking weird. I was kind of uninspired with it because this wig was weird, and clearly it was noticeable. So I still think about it sometimes because I want to redo it one day. In a motivational way. I'm thinking about it.
Right.
And for you, Tingle Smith?
For my proudest, I really liked doing Dr. Jonathan Copperhead. Very, very pompous. I get the chance to use a pipe. And I get the chance to have a mustache. I don't know why I was a mustache and pipes, but they're different. They set you into a different character. Instantly, I feel different. I don't feel like how I usually feel. And he had a really cool metal hand as well, which took some making. Yeah, I was going to let's go the whole thing. And that's why he wears a long sleeve shirt. It's because it's not so easy to make the whole thing. And I think he's my favorite. I built some cinematic backgrounds for him as well, which were cool. My least favorite. I don't know if I have a least favorite. They're all my children. What can you really say? I mean, technically, you shouldn't say you've got a favorite, but I don't know if I could say any of my least favorite. Of course, there are some that are a bit cringy. My David Bowie.
That's ASMR, right? Is it? That's how it goes.
Exclusive on TingleCon, I feel is a little bit cringy, but more just because I just couldn't pull him off. But I still love it.
David Bowie, he's big.
David Bowie, he's making moves though. I don't want to say anymore. He's excited. He loves TingleCon. David Bowie.
Sorry. Yeah.
And Wispoint, how about you? Most proud of? And
gosh, I don't know. I have a few. I think for me, developing this channel and the story and the characters, I've really challenged myself with like different makeup looks. And so some of the ones that I'm most proud of are the ones where I was like, I have no idea how I'm going to pull this off, but I just keep trying until I get it. So some of the like either full body makeup looks like Knob. Okay, I've been talking about her all stream too, but like Knob they're green, like fully green, and that was hard, but I've figured out how to do it really well. And then I have like a character that's all blue that was like a pirate captain. She was really cool. And then I also have a character where I turned myself into a man, which I've never done before, but it actually turned, like, it looked really cool. Like, it legitimately freaked out my husband. He's like, no. But it was a lot of fun. And it was like, it was just a challenge. Like, can I do this? Can I actually pull this out? Because like I have such like a baby face that everybody thinks I look so. I was like, can I actually do makeup to like make it convincing? And it was convincing enough that my husband like didn't want to be in the house that day. I'm like, okay, like, so that sounds like a weird one to like be proud of, but I was proud of how the makeup turned out, I guess. Least favorite. I actually had a character that I filmed her and she never saw YouTube. She never saw the light of day because I hated her so much. No, I filmed her and I wanted it to be like this kind of obnoxious over the top, like camp counselor kind of feeling. And I also used like my very like, oh yeah, sure, you betcha, like Minnesotan accent because I'm actually like from Minnesota. And I know. We've talked about this, Amy, but like I was editing
any
it.
way to get it back?
No, I completely deleted it. I was editing it and I was like, I hate this. I am so annoyed. I absolutely despise this person. And so I just deleted, like completely gone. So she never saw the light of day. Maybe someone similar will have to show up at some point, but gosh, not her. She was bad. It was terrible.
Oh, goodness.
Awesome. And Amy K, do you want to close us out with this last answer here? And then I'm going to do a little closeout for 30 seconds before we go.
So I have a lot that I'm really proud of, but I think my Jinx ASMR, I'm recently the most proud of, mainly because I had like this expectation of how well it was going to turn out. And I felt like I exceeded it. And that doesn't normally happen. Generally, you have this idea in your head and it turns out way worse. And you're like, oh, I guess I'll have to deal with it. But I was really proud of myself. I was like, oh my gosh, how did I make that happen? The ones that I'm least proud of, I think at the time I was really proud of them. I think back to all my earlier ones. And I did this one I think about sometimes, like, oh, should I delete it? But then I'm like, no, leave it up. It shows that I've grown. Mm-hmm. But I did a Starfire ASMR and I did her accent so well. And I loved the story, but I didn't understand. I didn't know how to do makeup. And I bought like the cheapest, ugliest wig. It was so plasticky. And like, I had like a NASA shirt because I didn't have enough money for a costume. And like, I did orange snazaroo paint and I didn't understand that you have to do like shading. I just put just the paint on and it makes you look so flat and the lighting was overexposed and just horrid. And I think the sound was at least good. I look back at it and I'm like, oh my God, it looks so bad. It's like patchy and like you see part of the paint coming off and I was like, ah. So I think it's another one of those where I'm like, I feel like I need to redo it just to show myself that it's okay. I've grown.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. But sometimes every once in a while I'm like, should I delete it? No. Leave it.
I love that story. Yeah. And the overexposure is always one that's a tough one.
I didn't even realize that. Until a year, I didn't. Until like a year or two into filming, I was like, overexposure. What's that? Is that why I'm almost like ghostly white in every single one of my videos? And then I figured it out. I'm like, wait a second, I have a skin tone. You know,
you can put in a camera not just right in front of you. Oh,
yeah,
exactly. Or the ring light in your face, like that, right there.
Just one right straight at me, right in my face, and I didn't realize it.
You only know what you know. You only know
what you know.
And you got to start somewhere. You know, we all start somewhere, and we all.
That's right.
We all get to grow and learn from those.
Absolutely.
Things,
so. Yeah.
And with that all said,
before we close out.
Oh, sorry, I don't want to.
I think you're trying to escape from something because.
Oh no! I mean, I don't want to.
You do some brilliant cosplays yourself, right?
Oh, thank you, man. I really appreciate that.
Like Rally, I thought was brilliant. You had the Roman soldier. So what's yours? What's your favorite?
Yeah, I agree. I want to hear it.
Oh, wow. Well, okay. Well, I'll keep it really short. I guess if you're really putting it to me, I mean, I gotta go with that Roman soldier video. I mean, the Assassin's Creed backgrounds that I totally ripped off the game and recorded as my green screen. It went so nicely. I mean, wait, yeah, I didn't do that. It just was really nice. And I got the lighting. I figured out, like Amy K, I didn't know about lighting, but then I was like, oh wait, if I put like the blue light over here and then this orange light, it's like real fire. Like, oh my God, it like really adds dimension. And then like, you learn from people like ASMR Weekly, and you're like, wait, I should be doing this all the time with every single like. You only know what you know.
Friends are really helpful. I learned the majority of it from the people that I'm like, how do you do that? Teach me.
Yes. Like Atlas, tell me what you.
I learned so much from him. I was like, I just send him a message and be like, tell me. What is this light?
He's like, first you need to buy a $10,000 light.
Actually,
okay. What is it on a budget?
Okay, that is so funny because he had this light that had made a fire effect, and I was like, "Hey man, like, what is that light?" And he sent me the link to it. It was like $400.
$4,000. Yeah.
I mean, he has it because that's his profession.
In the industry.
Yeah.
Well, that all said, there will be more discussion of that because you're having an ASMR Destiny who's like the god of ASMR technology. Yeah. So he'll be.
Oh my God. Yeah.
He'll be sharing his secrets. Cool. So he's got this. He really has the secrets. So that all said, I want to say thank you so much to all of our panelists for our cosplay panel, Riley Roses, Tingle Smith, Whisperwind, Amy K. It was an amazing conversation. I think we learned a lot. And I really appreciate your time. And with that all said, we will now move on to our next segment. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And,
bye.